The most legendary of all blood dragons was and is their first master, the Dragon Slayer, the Scourge of the Greenskins, the Blade Immortal, the Lord of Blood, ABOHRASH the Great, ABOHRASH the Wanderer, and ABOHRASH the Master. But his location is unknown. Some say he wandered north, deep into the Chaos Wastes, or east into the lands of the Giants to seek out even greater conquests. Others say he followed the path of Sigma and became a god. Others say he still walks amongst their ranks in the disguise of a young thrall, watching for the most worthy amongst them. Still others think of the tales of other dragon slayers, like the mighty Gilles le Breton and Lord Amara of Hoeth, and wonder how many faces their master might wear in a life as long as his. Whatever the case, none have seen or spoken to him in centuries, and his location and his plans remain mysterious. Harking back to the ancient days of Nehekara, at the peak of its power, in the city of Lahmia, a warrior known as ABOHRASH dwelt. He was the protector of Lahmia's queen, Neferata, and had sworn always to uphold her honor and defend the kingdom from any threat, commanding the queen's personal bodyguard as their captain. He was a peerless swordsman, even in those days, and ancient scrolls found in the sandy ruins told of his legendary skill and loyalty, his heart filled with love for his people, but with an even greater love for his queen. When Neferata discovered the dark art of necromancy from the books of Nagash, and recreated an imperfect version of the great necromancer's potion of immortality, she became the first vampire. Gifting the rest of her court with her dark gift, she took a liking to ABOHRASH, who she saw as a pure and noble man that she could corrupt. Drawing him in with her supernatural allure, she made false promises of love and devotion, enchanting his mind and tricking him into drinking her befouled blood. Tainted with vampirism and much to his horror, ABOHRASH soon began to thirst for living blood. Much to the amusement of his queen, he refused to feed upon those he had sworn to protect. So great was his martial pride. Yet his resistance was short-lived, for he could not resist the powerful thirst for blood that had overtaken him. In a night of gory feasting, the captain of the guard slaughtered a dozen of the queen's subjects and drank their blood, sullying his purity and damning himself forevermore. Filled with sorrow and guilt over what he had done, ABOHRASH swore to never again drink the blood of innocents, and every night henceforth he lit a dozen candles in memory of those he had killed, and only drank the blood of criminals and enemies of Lahmia. When the city was besieged by the priest kings, who sought to end the threat of Nagash's legacy once and for all, ABOHRASH was at the forefront of its defense, standing with the mortal soldiers of Lahmia in battle. Ancient hieroglyphs asserted that ABOHRASH slew hundreds of the priest king's warriors until the steps of the palace were awash with blood. Despite his best efforts, however, the city fell, though he did not join Nagash when the other vampires fled to Nagashizar, but instead chose to exile himself, followed by his zealous vampire disciples. Believing he had been betrayed not only by the mortal priest kings who had slain all those he had loved and protected, but also by his queen who had made him what he had become and who had fled to serve Nagash and forsaken her people, ABOHRASH swore an oath to never again trust mortals. He continued to light the 12 candles, though they represented his hatred for humanity instead of his sorrow for those he had killed. Rather than seeking dominion over the land or knowledge of arcane arts as the other vampires did, ABOHRASH directed his powers towards attaining the absolute pinnacle of martial achievement, striving to become the ultimate, perfect warrior. He taught his followers, among whom were Valachar Khan and Varasun the Blade, that single combat and honor in battle were the only true measure of greatness, and told them that only the impure fed upon the weak. ABOHRASH himself refused outright to feed upon those he deemed weak, and contented himself only with the blood of tribal chiefs and other great fighters, traveling far and wide in pursuit of this goal. He sought out the most lauded warriors and slew countless orc warlords, human tribal leaders, champions of chaos, and other great fighters. None, however, could match him. His ascension and legacy. Eventually, ABOHRASH's quest took him to a mighty peak in the World's Edge Mountains, its summit wreathed in fire and smoke. He scaled the daunting edifice in a single day, and came upon the lair of an ancient and immense red dragon. Knowing then that he had found the challenge he had been seeking, he drew his sword and dared to enter the lair of the beast. The vampire and the dragon threw themselves at each other. The monster's breath bathed ABOHRASH in flames, but his immortal flesh did not char. Its claws and fangs tore rents in his shield and armor, while ABOHRASH's sword cleaved immense gashes into the thick hide of the dragon. They battled for the whole night, and the mountains echoed with the fierceness of the clash. Just before daybreak, his sword found the dragon's heart, and he dealt it a final, fatal blow. Even as the last of the dragon's life bubbled from the wound, he bared his fangs and burrowed his head into the gaping cut, gulping deeply at the lifeblood of the dragon. He drank and drank, filling himself with the dragon's life force. He cast the monstrous beast's bloodless carcass from the mountain top and gave a roar of victory that caused avalanches to tumble for many miles around. Invigorated by the blood of the dragon, infused with its ancient strength, ABOHRASH no longer thirsted for the blood of humans. Finally, after centuries of torment, he had freed himself from the blighted unlife Neferata had cursed him with. At one point, Gilles le Breton and his Grail companions came across him. The two mighty warriors dueled, resulting in the Blood Knight swearing an oath of fealty to Gilles and his people. The vampire later assisted with the construction of La Maisontal Abbey as part of his life debt. Join me next time for The Northern Sword, or the Scourge of Aquitaine, and better known as the dreaded Red Duke.